Well, it's been 30 years since the deadly protest at Tiananmen Square in China. In 1989, students were peacefully calling for political and economic reform when authorities responded with brutal force, resulting in an unknown number of casualties.
And this has become the most iconic photograph of that day. It depicts the emotion of the situation, and the photographer behind the famous Tank Man picture, Jeff Widener, joins us now from New York City. Jeff, it's so great to have you on the show in this 30th anniversary week. Can you take us back to that day and how you came to take that iconic photo?
Well, it was a long process, about a week beforehand, but in a nutshell, I was suffering from the flu, and the night before I took the photograph, I was slammed in the face by a rock during a burning armored car protest. So you can imagine me hanging on the outside of the Beijing Hotel, which is the closest vantage point to where the occupied square was, and I'm hanging over this balcony with a long telephoto lens. That's pretty much what I was facing.
And the way you got into that balcony as well, because you're a journalist, it wasn't a particularly friendly environment for international journalists and photographers. Can you tell us how you came to be there and the help that you got?
Yeah, it wasn't friendly at all. I got a message from New York Photos saying that they didn't want anyone to take any necessary risks, but they would like someone to photograph the occupied Tiananmen Square. So I had to ride a bicycle 2 miles, and what was waiting for me was a bunch of Chinese security police that were using electric cattle prods on journalists to get their notebooks or their film or their cameras. So I had to figure out a way to wangle my way through that mess. And in the back alleys, there was sporadic gunfire going on. I mean, they had truckloads of soldiers that were just randomly going around the city shooting civilians. When I got to the Beijing Hotel, I was about to get searched by these guys, and I noticed a foreigner in the shadows of the lobby, and that was Kirk Martzen. Kirk Martzen was an American exchange student, and I went up to Kirk and I said, "Hey, Joe, where you been? I've been looking for you." And then I whispered, "I'm from AP, can you let me up to your room?" And he says, yeah, come on up. So we were going up in the elevator to his room on the 6th floor. He said, "Man, you are lucky when you got here right now, because 10 minutes ago, a truckload of soldiers shot on some of the guests in the hotel lobby, and they dragged their bodies back in, and I had to hide behind a taxi." So, I mean, with all the problems I had, when I got to the bed, I just collapsed and took a nap, basically. And then later on, I started photographing from the balcony.
And Jeff, you know, that moment, and we're seeing it playing out in real time in the video here next to you, of that man standing in front of the tanks protesting what was happening in Tiananmen Square, it's become such I guess, a symbol of what people were trying to do and the freedoms that they were trying to get in China at the time. Did you realise that when you took that shot that it would encapsulate this moment so clearly?
Not really. You got to remember, I was pretty whacked out with a concussion. And I was terrified. I mean, I've never been so scared. I've been on a lot of dangerous stories in my life, but I almost died at least 3 times on that story. So it didn't really sink in. I mean, I knew the picture was well received around the world. I mean, you had Time magazine wanting it for the cover, Life magazine. It fronted all the UK papers, half a page on the front. So I knew it was well received, but it really didn't sink into me until years later. When I saw a little clip on AOL that said top 10 most memorable photos of all time. And there were all the pictures I knew from a kid, you know, like the Hindenburg crash, all the famous iconic images, and then there was mine. And I got choked up, you know, I really did. That's when it hit me like a bolt of lightning that I'd accomplished something really extraordinary.
What I love about the full circle nature of this story is when you went back for the 20th anniversary, that's where you met your wife.
Yeah, I mean, my life's a bit like Charlie Brown and Forrest Gump combined, because some of the stuff that's happened in my life is extraordinary. On the 20th anniversary, the BBC flew me down for a secret documentary. So I was going to make this sentimental walk from my old hotel to Jianguo and just walk to the square and take my time. I saw this pretty young, blonde, blue-eyed German backpacker, and I chatted her up like an idiot because, you know, I was old enough to be her father. And I said, "Hey, remember that famous Tank Man photo? You know, I'm the guy. And so, little did I know, the following year, I get married in Honolulu, Hawaii, and now we've been living in Hamburg, Germany for about 9 years.
Well, look
That
at
is
you
wonderful.
go, Jeff.
Life's weird, man. I tell you.
Well, at least you're there to
man.
document it. Jeff, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice being here.